Well, I wanted to take this a moment to actually record a short video to demonstrate one of the parts of my application project, which was to utilize a audience response system developed by Turning Technologies to actually give an interactive quiz to students in my class to find out how well they understand the concepts of andragogy and if they're able to differentiate between concepts of andragogy and pedagogy. You can actually download the software to utilize this tool from turningtechnologies.com. That's their website. You can actually download the software. And then these are the actual hardware, the clickers that you'd use to give this quiz in class. The quiz itself is developed utilizing a software, again, called Turning Point, which is here. I'll show you in a little bit. Once you develop the quiz itself is then given utilizing PowerPoint. And you can see that there's a Turning Point add-in up here at the top once you open the quiz in PowerPoint. So I'm actually going to demonstrate the actual quiz itself. The quiz itself is 10 questions long. I've actually started the quiz. You can see down here in the bottom that polling for the quiz questions is now open. And so I'm actually have a couple of clickers here myself. I'm actually going to act as the students. I'm actually going to answer these questions. And so we'll see how this quiz actually works. The first question of the quiz says that during the first class session, so here's the situation. During the first class session, the instructor has a discussion with students and asks each student what they want to accomplish during the semester and what they want to get out of taking the class. The situation described above is an example of pedagogy or education, or self-directed student learning or andragogy. Select A if you think the situation is an example of pedagogy and education, or if you think it's B, an example of andragogy or self-directed learning. So now the students will then go ahead and respond. I have two clickers, so I'm going to respond as if I'm a student. So I'm going to go ahead and have one student select A and one student select B. So we can see down here in the bottom that two students have actually responded. I can then close the polling, stop the students from answering questions by pressing Enter on my keyboard. And then the good thing is it shows me some data. I can see that of the two students that responded, 50% or one of the two students guessed A and one of the students guessed B. So I could see right away that one of the students got the question wrong, or 50% of the class got it wrong. So 50% of the class doesn't understand that the situation described above is actually a pretty good example of andragogy or self-directed learning. We'll move on to question number 2. Question 2. A teacher that has embraced the andragogy model of learning blank the students what he thinks they ought to know. So again, if this is andragogy, the teacher always tells the students what they think they ought to know. If you think that's true, push A. If they usually tell the students what they think they ought to know, push B. Or if andragogy says that teachers rarely tell the students what they think they ought to know, push C. So I'm going to go ahead and again act as the instructor or as the student. So I'm going to go ahead and select the correct button on the clicker, so we see that both students have responded. And now we're going to go ahead and close the polling and take a look at how their answers fall out. And it looks like both of the students who answered this quiz guessed C, which is correct, actually. So they understood the concept that a teacher that embraces andragogy very rarely tells the students what he thinks they ought to actually know. Third question in the quiz. An instructor who has embraced an andragogical model of learning spends most of his time A, talking to students, B, talking at students, or C, listening to students. And so our students respond. We can see with this particular question that only one of the students got the correct answer right, which was C, actually listening to the student as opposed to talking to the students. So again, as an instructor, I could then spend some time in my class if I wanted to, and if I felt it was important for them to understand the andragogical model, to help them understand that the correct answer in this case would have actually been C. Next question. We have a list here of characteristics. 1, respect for personality. 2, participation in decision making. 3, freedom of expression and availability of information. 4, mutuality of responsibility in defining goals, planning, conducting activities. The question then says the 4 conditions listed above are basic characteristics of a good educational environment according to which learning model? Is it A, andragogy, B, pedagogy, or C, colagogy? And so the students will then answer. So both students who are taking this quiz have answered, and we see that both of them actually guessed the correct answer, which is A, andragogy. Next question. In a pedagogical model of learning, an instructor may feel a need or even compelled to cover ground in order to ensure that everything he wanted to talk about is covered in class. Is that statement true or false? So again, in a pedagogical model of learning, an instructor may feel a need or even compelled to cover ground in order to ensure everything he wanted to talk about is covered in class. And we know, of course, that answer is false, so we'll see what the students guess. So both students have responded, and we can see that both students actually guessed false or correctly answered false, which is the correct answer. Next question. A student raises his hand in class to share a personal experience he had with the concept the instructor is presenting. After calling on the student and listening to the experience, the instructor gives little acknowledgement to the student's comment and experience and moves on to the next topic of his lecture. This instructor was a good example of modeling andragogical concepts in class. So A is true or B is false. So now the students can then answer the question. So both students have answered. We'll see how they did. In this case, both students answered B, which is false, which is correct. In an andragogical model, instructors should give students the opportunity to share their experience and should acknowledge that their experience counts in class. Next question. In order to help students learn to listen with empathy, the teacher himself listens to them empathically. This is a good example of the application of andragogy by using teaching through modeling approach. Is that true or false? So now our students get a chance to answer the question. Both of them have responded, so we can take a look at how they did. Well, in this case, half the students got it right, half the students got it wrong. The answer to the question was true. In the teaching through modeling approach, teachers actually model the behavior they want the students to actually learn. So if the teacher wants the students to listen with empathy, then that teacher should listen empathically. Next question. During the first class session, the instructor establishes authority and responsibility by handing out a syllabus and then telling the students what the course competencies are, what he expects out of the students, what his grading policies are, and that he only gives out one A grade each semester. The above described situation is a good example of the andragogy model of learning. So students can then answer. So our two students answer. We can see their responses are locked in with the audience response system. We move on, and we see that both students guessed false, which is the correct answer. So they both were able to identify that this situation was not consistent with the andragogy model of learning. Next question. The climate in a class embracing an andragogical model of learning is A, authority-oriented, B, formal and competitive, C, relaxed, trusting, informal, and mutually respectful, D, collaborative, supportive, and open, or E, both C and D. Students are then able to answer the question. So both students responded. Go ahead and see how they responded. Well, in this case, the correct answer was actually E. Both C and D are examples of climates in classes that embrace the andragogical model. However, one of the students didn't realize that C also was a descriptor, and they erroneously identified D instead of E. Next question. In a pedagogy model of learning, the diagnosis of student needs is done by the A, teacher, B, student, or C, mutual assessment by student and teacher. Students can then answer the question. All right, students have answered. We can see that 100% of the students who answered this question did guess the correct question, which was C, mutual assessment by student and teacher. Now the quiz is done. One of the great features about the Turning Point software that I really like is if you go to the Turning Point add-in on the PowerPoint then, I can actually generate reports that allow me to take a look at the results of the quiz by question, for example. Maybe I want to see if there's a particular concept that most of the students are either getting right or getting wrong. Or what I might want to do is I might want to look at the results by participant. So if I hit the results by participant, I can then see the student named Jane Virtual. I can see that they scored 6 out of 10, 60%. I can see specifically which questions they missed, which ones they got right. So then me as an instructor, I can maybe focus on helping them understand the concepts that they got wrong. So anyway, the report feature is really great. You can even export onto your computer and save it as a file. If you choose to use this assessment as an actual point value assessment in your class, you can input the scores in your gradebook. I'm going to go ahead and pause the presentation just a moment because I want to open up a different piece of software that's going to allow me to demonstrate the how you actually make the quizzes themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this for just a moment. Well, it appears that I can't actually open up the Turning Point software once I've closed out the quiz when I've got Camtasia recording. So again, the software itself is called Turning Point. You can download it from Turning Technologies website. It's very easy to use. It allows you to create question lists. It allows you to create participant lists if you choose to use this as an actual assessment, or you can assign specific clickers to specific students. It's a great piece of software, and it's going to be a great tool, I think, to be able to use in my class to assess how well students are understanding the concepts of andragogy. Hope you enjoyed this video presentation.